Well, my husband and I went to high school together, but we didn't date in high school. We've been together for 20 years. We live in Roland Park, and we have 4 kids. Lexi is our oldest, and she's a freshman at North. Johnny is 12, and he's a 7th grader at Hawker. And then there's Brooklyn and Bo, our 5-year-old twins, and they are at Roseland. So my kids were 8 and 6, and we had planned on being done, and so we found out we were having 2 babies instead of 1. So everything changed: our car, our house, everything. So it was a huge change. So then they were born super early, 12 weeks early, and Brooklyn was 2 pounds 6 ounces, and Bo was 1 pound 15 ounces. So early on, they had spent many days in the hospital. We knew fairly quickly that he was what they considered failure to thrive. We started him in therapy at the Leanne Britton Center, and one of our therapists had noticed him being real lethargic, so she had suggested that we check his blood sugar. I had called our doctor, and he said, keep track of it and call me on Monday, and I did. And over the weekend, he had a couple of really low, like 29 and 36 blood sugars. So on first thing Monday morning, I called him, and 3 days later, we were in the hospital. They started with something called a water deprivation test because they thought maybe he was growth hormone deficient. And then they called something like diabetes insipidus. So we knew that genetically there might be something going on, but they needed to clear some other things. They found out he had growth hormone deficiency, and then we found out a couple of days later that he was type 1 diabetic. A typical day, usually he gets up around 4:30 a.m. And he likes to sit on his iPad and lay in bed. He drinks a lot, and he goes to the bathroom a lot because he's diabetic. So he usually gets up around 4:30. He's addicted to goldfish. That's really the only thing he eats. So I will get him some apple juice and his goldfish, and around 7 o'clock, he'll start to get off the couch a little bit. He does have rheumatoid arthritis, so he doesn't move a ton, or, he goes to school for 2 hours a day, and sometimes that's pushing it because he's so tired from it. He takes a lot of seizure meds, so that makes him kind of tired also. So some days he will get up and he will play like a normal 5-year-old, and he will stick right along with Brooklyn and help Lexi and Johnny get ready for school. He'll get his backpack, he'll get in the car, and he'll go. On a different day, he won't even get off the couch. I would say the most difficult part is the not knowing. One day he acts like a normal 5-year-old, and the next day he physically can't walk, and he's so sick he can't get out of bed. And this thing out there called Bo syndrome, that he's the only kid in the world that these doctors are treating. Our doctors here are our lifeline, and they keep me and my husband's head above water. On days where I get frustrated as a mom because I don't understand where or why or where are we going and what is next for my child. Seeing my older kids who give up so much for him. They never complain. They never wonder why. They don't worry about the little things in life. They kind of embrace it, and he's so lucky to have them. It's hard because I think with a kid with something so rare and with every day being different, you wonder. My husband more so than me, because he gets more frustrated, like, where are we going and what is next and how are we going to fix this? Because I think that's his nature, because he gets up every day, he works so hard for us, and he goes to work and provides for us, and we can't answer this question, like, what's next for him? What are we going to do for him? Is he going to make it to first grade? Is he going to be in high school? Those are questions as a mom that you have, and you question. I don't ever want my children to lose their sibling. that is what I don't want. But in the same breath, him living life the way he does, and the way that his brother and sisters make him happy, and he, as you saw, is angry at times. He hurts, his body hurts. He's sick at times. He can't get out of bed. His blood sugar is high, his blood sugar is low, and it's so easy for people to judge, like, oh, well, you should be doing this or you should be doing that. But really, in all reality, nobody knows. They can't walk 1 minute in our shoes, let alone one day. I think I blogged last year about it. I'm sure I have a blog post about it, and I think he was at then, like 4 chest tubes, 25 IVIG treatments, 50 blood transfusions, 25. He just had his 49th sedation procedure 2 weeks ago when he had to have his teeth done. 3 ports, a liver biopsy, a lung biopsy, 25 bone marrow biopsies, maybe 25 to 50 MRIs, and all sedated, CAT scans, x-rays. He didn't have a port for about 15 months, so he had about 290 pokes with 17 PICC lines in his arm. And you can kind of see in his arm, like one of his veins is permanently broke. So it's like a permanent line, it's a bruise. So his second port that got infected actually had to be kept, I touched my thing, sorry. His second port that they had to remove actually had to heal from the inside out because it was infected. So they had to pack it daily and unpack it daily just because they didn't want the infection to get anywhere else in his body. He has 36 granulomas on his right lung and 46 granulomas on his left lung. He has a MAC infection in his liver, lungs, and bone marrow. He's diabetic. He gets probably 10 to 12 finger sticks a day. I have to change. He has a CGM, so he has an insulin pump on his belly, a continuous glucose monitor on his belly, a G-tube, and a port.
That's cool.
I don't think people realize the magnitude between financially and then the stress. My husband works 12, 15 hours a day, and when I'm here, he also has to be the mom. He has to pick kids up, he has to get dinner ready, he has to do homework, he has to get kids in bed and get them to school, on top of worrying about me and his son here. So I feel like that is hard because he's trying so hard, and then we're here. I know that's stressful because he doesn't know what's going on here. And then when he comes up every day, and there are days where he's frustrated because nothing has changed. And, it's just every single day is different. And every single day we just wake up and be thankful for what we have. Financially, life is already hard. In general, without having a sick kid. You never in a million years plan on bringing a sick child into this world. So when you have on top of your sick child, and your sick child that has diabetes and growth hormone deficiency and seizures, and he's on 17 medications. And if his insulin pump breaks, I have to pay a copay for that, which is $1,500. Well, not many people have $1,500 sitting around their house, on top of 17 prescriptions a month. Financially, I think people think, oh, this fundraiser was done and this fundraiser is done. Unless the fundraiser is done and they give us $1 million, financially we have to live. We have a mortgage to pay and we have to live in our home. And I think one of the hardest things too with having a sick child is you have these people that are willing to help you, and go out of their way to help you. And like I said earlier, all I have to give is to say thank you. Just even as little as putting meals together. So my husband doesn't have to buy a meal on his way home tonight. People are going to bring us a meal so my family can eat dinner tonight. You know, me staying here, if we're here for 2 days or 2 weeks, it probably costs me anywhere between $100 to $250 for me to survive here. You know, I mean, I have to have some coffee. So I think people don't see the big picture sometimes, because you do have fundraisers and you do have things like, you know, people will do a car wash for you. You know, my daughter's cheer squad sold T-shirts for us, but those things also help us live. You know, I don't ever want my kids to miss out on anything because we have to pay for Bo's medication. But hindsight is, having a sick child is very expensive. More expensive, I think, than anybody realizes. And having a sick, rare child is even worse.
Bo's case is tremendously unique. He has multiple parts of his condition. He has type 1 diabetes, he has difficult fighting infection, and a lot of other kind of small things that are starting to add up for us. He's having a lot of arthritis issues right now. He has seizures. So each of these things themselves are not very unique. The way that he has a lot of these different parts of his condition that are adding up, it doesn't fit with much of anything. We've done more than once all the commercially available testing that's out there. I mean, he's had tons of testing done, and then he's been to the leaders in the country, and probably somebody even consider in the world, about trying to find us some answers, and they've done testing on just his blood and gone into their own research lab, and they're still not sure what exactly it is. And so he's had some of the best minds in the world who can't quite figure him out yet. So the NIH, they were really puzzled as well. There were some immediate thoughts of possibly a couple conditions that would have been very rare, but they had an idea maybe to go looking for some things based off past infections that he's had. Unfortunately, that testing did not come to fruition, and so we still don't really have a good answer yet. And even the NIH at this point is quite puzzled. There's not a big push for them to have him come back, because they, as an NIH group, have kind of said we need to regroup and really think about what are the next steps for Bo, because we're not quite sure yet. But they don't want to have the family come all the way out when they're not sure what the next step would be just yet. We'd start with the same thing we would tell anybody who has any concerns about their child going to school and getting sick this time of the year, is their children need to have good hand hygiene, and everyone else in that class, teachers, everyone included, needs to have good hand hygiene. Don't really recommend him wearing a mask, but with everybody else being cognizant of kind of his at-risk situation, everybody using good infection control techniques, as well as him getting his regular infusions, and hopefully there's a little bit of luck involved too. I think the challenges right now is trying to find the mind out there in the world who's going to be able to help us get an answer. I know that person's out there, and it's our job to keep looking and calling, finding people who are interested. There's usually not a lack of interest, because his story is very unique and so many people want to try to help. But a lot of people have been quick to say, actually, we're not sure we're going to be able to do much. And so it's trying to keep fighting and having some persistence to say, well, what about this? Would you be able to help on this front? And some people would go from there.
It's us.
I did.
Okay.
She said she met you at the gala.
Yes, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but she's like, oh, I know this person and this person from this person. You just have to know. What are you doing?
Should we turn the light off, bud?
What? Thank you so much for it. Oh, yeah. I know, that's so great. Great to have you. That's what we're doing.
I was telling them, last month around in San Diego, she did up to.
Okay. out of school. He was on the state freshman. He's there. I know. Yes, I'm going to Oh, I saw that. Yeah. Yes, he goes to school with my daughter. I didn't know that. And then when he took her up the other day, we're still
Gotta get the toes.
Next thing you
All
know,
right.
don't get my toes.
next thing you know, Dre's gonna be visiting the
Nope.
hospital.
Yeah.